Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on a little bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news just like today, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is gonna focus on New South Wales, the state of New South Wales. Well, we haven't really been talking about New South Wales for a while. Well, because they have not really announced their occupation list, since no one could actually, submit the EOI or perhaps ROI or whatever that's required. But today we have just learned, probably about an hour ago, the announcement of the skill occupation list is out. Now I think there are still some criteria required to be attached onto the 491, but I think the most important thing is we go back to the skill occupation list that the publishment from the state of New South Wales will actually give you some hints what is required. So now let's just jump in there and have a look. Now if you do want this link, I will drop it in the comment and leave it at the top there so everybody can click and go in there. Now let's have a read first. This is a New South Wales skill list. They avoid occupation. I don't know why, but anyway, you see all the state and territory, they want their own creation of names and make it so complicated because everybody calls it differently. Okay, as we can see here, there's a explanation here. Let's just go through it. It says a new minimum points and the skill work experience requirement. Now this is for 2022 and 23, so this is the most updated stuff. But as you can see, they did not. They did intentionally include the work experiences requirement. Now that will actually make New South Wales probably the hardest state to actually migrate, to actually pass their state criteria, nomination criteria. So to be eligible New South Wales nomination, you must meet the minimum points, which is set out below with all the list down below. You check their skills and the occupation. They will they'll publish the minimum required points and the minimum years of work experiences in your occupation. Now bear in mind, to actually meet New South Wales 190491 criteria, you're also required to pass at least 1 year of work experience score under EOI. Now looks like that is not just the minimum, that probably some of the skill that we're gonna see requires much higher. So here giving the example, if your skill is finance manager 132211, you must have minimum score of 110. Now that's almost like impossible. Is it down there? Finance manager here, 110, and with a minimum 3 years of eligible skill work experience to be considered invitation round. Wow, now that is massively crazy. But anyway, let's have a look. Now obviously they are just hundreds of skill occupations here. I won't go through every one of them, but I will pick some of them, perhaps with some sound points and the work experiences required. Now bear in mind, you need to meet the minimum of 190 and 491 requirement for New South Wales, which still require 1 year work experiences, even though, for example, research and development manager requires 0 work experiences. But to meet the minimum, you still need to meet that previous the 190 and 491 criteria. But this is the occupation list that the New South Wales has published. So we look around from this page, basically everything is actually quite hard, unless we see those 65 points or 75. Those one will sound more normal. Things like finance manager going on 110, that is just going crazy. Why do they even bother to have that in the list? Just remove it. It doesn't even make any sense. Who can actually meet that requirement? I think will be extremely hard. Okay, and this ICT manager, 95 points. If we go down, most of them are located at the range of 70 to 85 from what I can see. And look at this accountant, auditor. That is just near impossible. You don't even need to think about. Now, bear in mind, this is 190. And we continue to scroll down, we will go to 491. Okay, so as you can see, architect, that's very hard. And that's basically what I can see here. At the end of this video, I'll provide feedback of how I feel about New South Wales nomination for 2022 and 23. But what we can see here is actually very hard for people, for skilled migrants to actually go to New South Wales. So obviously they probably will just kick a lot of people away. A lot of people will go to Victoria, perhaps Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, elsewhere, rather than go to New South Wales. New South Wales is just too hard. But so for special education teacher, 65 points with 0 work experiences. But look how many special education teachers are out there. Okay, and we continue to look into the list. Even the nurses, nurses is fine. Look at this, 65 and 1 year work experience. That's fine. That's all right. But oh, sorry, that's nurse manager. But if you're a registered nurse, you require 85. Yeah, that's quite hard as well, because if you just graduated, you probably won't meet 85 unless you get IELTS 8. And look at the ICT people. Well, that's very bad news, because none of them is below 100. And we even got this 105. I don't know how that 5 points coming from. But however, for ICT people to actually go to 100 points, that's again near impossible. Okay, barrister, no problem. Solicitor, well, 95. That's hard. If we continue to go down, it's favorable on social workers, 70 points. That's fair. Motor mechanic, 85 points. Now, how can I find a mechanic with 85 EOI points? That is just too hard. And carpenters and things. Anyway, this is all the trades. Cook and chef. How do I find a chef with 90 points? Now, you're talking about getting a chef who probably had around 7 or 8 years of work experiences, and they probably got a perfect English score as well. Now that is crazily hard. Okay, anyway, let's move to 491. It includes some agri-related occupation, but some of them is crazy still. Again, look at finance manager, 115 points. That it just doesn't make any sense. Engineer manager, 100 points. And most of them are basically copying from the 190 occupation list and add on 5 points more, because it's 491. You get extra 10 points apart from the compare against 190. And I think from what I can see here, look at cafe restaurant manager, 90 points. How do you get 90 points with the cafe restaurant manager? Accountant, auditor, well, don't think about it. And then we continue to look at fashion designer, 80 points. Architect, 100 points. That is just gonna make all the engineers more 100 points. We didn't see an engineer back in 190, didn't we? There's only a few. And then we compare to the 491, we actually got more, but the point is above 100. That's just gonna, no one's gonna be there. Okay. And if we continue to go down, I think the fair one will be the teachers. Well, that's okay. That's okay. And secondary teacher is a little bit higher, but you get extra points for 491 as well. But that's going to be the regional New South Wales. And all these 65, who are these ones? These are all the GP, general practitioner, midwife, nurse, nursing manager. But registered nurse in regional New South Wales require 90 points. Wow, I don't know who is gonna make that. And ICT, wow, 110. Well, look, I'm pretty I'm not excited in looking at this occupation list. I mean, skill list, or whatever it is. They call it New South Wales skill list for 2022 and 23. Well, we just spent about 10 minutes going through this video and reading through some crazy number, despite that the government of Australia has actually given out additional quota for migration intake for the year of 2020 to 23, increasing from 160,000 to 195,000. And as you just saw, New South Wales skill list, I don't understand this. I thought when I read it, I thought we're still in pandemic. We're still back in 2020. What is your thought? I think this is actually New South Wales basically pushing this New South Wales skilled list is basically pushing all the skilled migrants away from New South Wales. Even the regional, if people in regional doing IT, ICT, they still require 110 points. Who can actually get that? And you're required to be around a young age with the maximum work experiences and maximum English criteria points. I mean, it's just near impossible. So my conclusion in this video is New South Wales is not migrant friendly at all. From what I can see, unfortunately, that's the final statement I should make on this after reading this skill list, unless there's something else out there that they gotta promote. I recall back last year that the Premier of New South Wales was the first Premier came out to actually ask for 2 million migrants required. However, would this be done over a federal selection rather than a state? Not too sure. But after comparing from state, territory, all around the country, and plus the new criteria and the annual intake has been announced, unfortunately, New South Wales skill list is just really unfriendly at all. So if you should consider in Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, or Western Australia, I think that's a better place to go rather than going to New South Wales. Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.